Is Trump comparable to Hitler? Now, this is a discussion that seems to be coming up over and over again lately, so I want to do a little experiment and post the results. Now, of course, Trump hasn't started, as far as we know, mass genocidal gassings of a certain population of America or even immigrants yet. Don't mean to be biasing the results because the process shouldn't be biased, but it's a mistake to look at Trump now and go, well, he hasn't done the worst thing that Hitler did, therefore he's incomparable to Hitler. Hitler didn't start with gassing the Jews. Hitler started off as a polarizing politician who used divisive tactics to gain the prime. I don't know what you'd call it. The Führer position of Germany, the president, the prime minister. I don't know what I think they call it prime minister. So use techniques, strategies, tactics to get into power, and then entrench that power and extend it and slowly become a fascist state, which then built up to the point where they could round up and cart off and lock up Jewish population and homosexuals and disabled people and murder them as a group. So Hitler doesn't start there, he ends there. So is Trump comparable to Hitler? Now, I am no historian. I am not an expert on World War II, and I am not at all an expert on the rise of Hitler. So being aware of my limitations and my ignorance, a tactic that I use in life in general is when I am aware that I am limited in my own capacity to understand, to research, and to decide for myself, it is easier and usually better to defer my own judgment to that of experts. So, hence this experiment. The idea is to try and identify 5 of the world's leading foremost experts on Hitler and his rise to power. Various combinations of that, either Hitler experts or people who are experts specifically in how Hitler rose to power. And so I want to try and do that quickly and objectively, and then try and get statements from them about Donald Trump and whether they think it's reasonable to compare his presidency so far to Hitler's rise to power. So that's what I want to do. And the whole idea here, if it isn't obvious, is I don't know who those experts are. I have no idea what they've said. So I just want to get people who can be recognized as experts on the topic that matters and see what they say. So let's go. World leading expert on Hitler's rise to power. Start with that. So Ian Kershaw on Hitler's place in Hitler history, leading historian. Ian Kershaw, Hitler's rise to power, region 1. So I've got a few things there. Famous expert on Hitler. Ian Kershaw, David Irving, Joseph Goebbels, no. Hitler phone of fake, David Irving. So David Irving has come up. David Irving's come there, but Ian Kershaw has come up a few times already. So a new book illuminates how propagandists use lifestyle stories to soften Hitler's image prior to World War II. A new book. So often admiring even movies. This is Despina's architectural historian at the University of Buffalo. The Hitler at Home will be published. University Press. So bring this over. Let's have a look at that person. Canadian-born architecture historian, writer, and professor at School of Architecture and Planning. Okay, but Hitler at Home, so that's curious. So we'll put her as a maybe. Ian Kershaw on Hitler's place in history, the lecture. Renowned as one of the leading experts on the Third Reich and his question of how Hitler. So that's an easy one. Let's go with him. Okay, so let's just go to the next step, so I don't go too far down the rabbit hole and then not get any progress. So what we want is Ian Kershaw on Donald Trump. Hitler biographer Ian Kershaw's new book on Donald Trump. So he's actually written about Donald Trump. So that's interesting. Donald Trump's America is like 1930s Germany. So there we go. So the first Hitler's biographer. So Ian Kershaw, who wrote a biography of the Nazi tyrant, is concerned about the nationalism that propelled President Trump to power. The historian attacked the outspoken Republican, whose Muslim ban has sparked widespread controversy. So straight away, the first expert I found, who seems to be the most obvious expert in this area, has clearly stated that Donald Trump is like Adolf Hitler. I just want to do one more thing because it's been so active lately that you can find his Twitter. And if I look through his most recent tweets, I wonder if he says anything. Forget the retweets. It's just a lot of retweeting. Let's stuff out Twitter. Okay, this isn't working out. I'm going to stop there. So he doesn't tweet about the Hitler stuff so much, so that's not helpful. But anyway, it still counts as a 1-4. Let's go to a second one. So let's quickly look at this Despina, historian writer. She's got 3 books. Where Are the Women Architects? Hitler at Home, Women's Berlin. Architectural Knowledge, Construction of Furious Domesticity. Doesn't seem to be appropriate. She's not studying Hitler's rise to power, propaganda, the nature of his politics, so it seems less relevant to really get the strong expert status that I'm looking for. Aberdeen has been authored a new book charts Adolf Hitler's rise from loner to lethal demagogue. That's exactly what we want. He's authored a book about Adolf Hitler's rise to demagogue. Hitler, the Making of a Nazi, is Professor Thomas Weber's Weber. So actually maybe Hitler's a demagogue. So boom, so let's go with him, Thomas Weber, Donald Trump. Thomas Weber. Trump is the start of a fatal infection, warns Cambridge lecturer. University lecturer brands Trump a fatal disease on Inauguration Day. Historian comparing Trump to Hitler as a distraction. What Germans really think about those Hitler Trump? Who was taking so strong on that Trump as a liberal? Thomas Weber. Huffo. Adolf Hitler made the Elmender front loud. The president just issued a thinly veiled physical threat of sitting members of Congress. Let's scroll down a bit. Find Trump. My CNN op-ed on how the Trump administration's understanding of citizenship, civil society, and the rule of law is based on that of Nazi Germany. That's pretty clear cut. Is invoked to justify evil. So again, second expert found, clearly not only saying he's like Hitler, but the Trump's administration is running on a system that they've basically learned from Hitler. By the looks of his Thomas Weber, so a strongman like Trump threatens our liberal world order. Hitler-centered historical comparison with the new strongmen of the world are dangerous. They're perilous not so much because they tend to miss their target by a wide margin, but rather because they act as a smokescreen. They obscure the very worrying parallels between the great crisis of liberalism and the post-18th century world. The last these parallels that should be the source of great concern for the future of the liberal world order, as it was the blah. Neither any of the newer aspiring strongmen and women, be they Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, Victor, are reincarnated Hitlers. Yet the fact that we do not have to fear the emergence of a new Auschwitz or Hitler-style world war should be no cause for complacency. Conditions in Europe after 1933 that gave rise to Hitler, Mussolini, Lenin, and Stalin look eerily similar to the conditions that have brought about the strong man of today to the fore. So yes, there's some nuance. He doesn't think that Trump is equivalent to Hitler, but clearly similar sort of attitudes, and as his tweet indicated, the administration is running along the same lines as that. It's very important German history. The danger Trump poses to the world. So somewhere between, yep, he's following in the footsteps of Hitler, but he's not Hitler. So obviously he's not Hitler. But is the comparison, are the comparisons apt? I don't think he's disagreeing with that. I think he's just saying it's dangerous. It's a distraction. We shouldn't be doing it. We should be focusing on the threat of Trump, not the theoretical comparison, which is fair enough. But I am putting that down into a yes, another expert, another confirmed Trump analogy. I think I'll leave it there because this has already been quite long, and I think the point's been made. Just the first two experts I found. How long have we gone? 11 minutes. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Is Trump comparable to Hitler? Apparently, according to the two most obvious experts I could find who have written specifically on the topic of Trump and his rise to power. Yes.